Ciw Wolastoqey. Nolas welcome Shopsu gas in order Magicol Gizipsanet and Bisnut. I just want to let you know that I was so excited to join this amazing circle. Got the invitation yesterday, and I opened up my strawberry basket because I'm teaching young girls about their moon ceremony. And so I have a strawberry basket that I'm going to take to the school that I work at to fill everything that I heard here today so that I can continue to do that. So anytime I do these circles, I always open up a basket. I also have what I call my a wooden bowl with water in it so that I can capture all the emotions that go with it. And also there's always a feather. I always do a council fire so that I light the, the passion that I'm feeling already from everybody that's spoken. And so I always have what I call a council fire. And I thought today was appropriate, especially when Elder Mike began with his Thanksgiving address and then followed by the beautiful song. And so I give so much gratitude for the medicine that I've heard so far. What I too, I'm supposedly retired from the University of New Brunswick here in, I've been there for 30 years, teaching language, teaching a course called Wabanaki Worldview, because I realize, as everybody's already mentioned, when you teach a course, sometimes it doesn't include, if you teach it the way that it's designed at the university, where here's your list of words, here's how you can make it conversational, but you don't take the worldview necessarily from it. So I designed a course to make sure that my language teaches about treaties, about that Tura Wampum Belt, teaches about how our classrooms were the land and now we're in buildings, and how do we join those together again. And so one of the things that I did as elder in residence, which was a new position at the University of New Brunswick, was we have to indigenize the university first of all, so that our students see their place there, not as visitors, not as tuition paying to make the university wealthy, because the government has paid tuition to universities for our students to go, but not given back our cultural values that those students are seeking, which aren't at the university, as everybody has mentioned here. So the first thing that I did that first week as elder in residence 8 years ago, I had a mural put on the wall, and on the mural was identity. And so we're people of the river. Yes, we're called Maliseet, which is a Mi'kmaq word, as Darren and Mary Ellen will remember. It means the slower speakers, so meaning our language is like the river. The Mi'kmaq, they're near the ocean. Their language is a little bit faster than ours. And so we wanted to get back. I said, I don't feel right being an elder in residence at a university and calling it Maliseet Micmac Institute. I want to change the name and teach the students that I'm responsible for and the communities that let's go back to our original name, people of the river, Wolastoqey. Just because Champlain changed our river name when he came without consulting our elders and said, let's call it Fleuve Saint Jean de Baptiste. Then the English came and said, no, let's call it St. John River. I says, well, what about the original name, Wolastoqey? So that's where I'm at now, is reviving that identity that everybody here has mentioned. What do we put back in our classrooms? Our identity. What do we put back in those classrooms that has such a cultural gap? And yes, we're just now, think about it, 2021, we're just now designing treaty education here in New Brunswick that's going into the classroom, 2021, we're just now doing that. So that's the kind of work that I'm doing, but I just don't do that work at the university. I'm retired as elder in residence at UNB, but I'm now elder in residence at two elementary schools. And one of the things that as everybody's mentioned, the place for language. So I do daily at the school. I'm only there 3 days a week because I'm at another school 1 day a week. And then I do my other work culturally for making sure that calls to action are paid attention to, whether it's the RBC Bank in our Atlantic provinces is going to be now putting welcome signs in all our languages at every branch in Atlantic Canada. So RBC is going to start putting welcome in our languages at the bank. I'm working with mayors to make sure there's land acknowledgements at city halls. I'm making sure that our lieutenant governor recently, and I think you'd like to hear this, when you were talking about Constitution, our lieutenant governor here in New Brunswick, this Christmas, we decorated a treaty tree, we called it. It was like the two-row wampum belt, the purple and the white going down the tree. We did it ceremonially. I had my students at the school write on birch bark language so that we can give the lieutenant governor our language. And so what she did for the 12 days of Christmas, to all other lieutenant governors across Canada, she was able to show off in our language from the territory she resides in, and so was able to teach the language that way. So those are the kind of important things that, from that constitution that, Sky was talking about, and stuff that needs to happen. But it's not just in classrooms. It has to be out there. It has to be, we were put on reservations, and I always say there was a time all of the land was our supermarket, our furniture store, our drugstores, our, everything that you talk about, because we already knew that. Now it's a new buzzword on the land teaching. We started on the land, and now it's become such a new thing. And I laugh because it's no, that's how we learned. We didn't have to go to stores. We didn't have anything store bought. We were living off the land, and now you're recognizing it when you outlawed it before, so it's exciting times. Our ancestors have left those petroglyphs for us to look at them and say, um, don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you come from. So one of the things that I do at the school is a linguist by trade. I do a language gratitude daily. It's in the language. And I teach every student to say, I want you to thank your grandmothers and grandfathers for the language they saved for us, the language that they were punished for, the language that was almost strapped out of them, but it's still here. And let's give gratitude and promise our grandmothers and grandfathers that we're going to save it for the ones not yet born now. That's the promise. So we do that on a daily basis. And what we do is we prepare our students, and our school at the community that I work in at St. Mary's First Nation, we start with babies 18 months up all the way to grade 6. And so what we do is we teach them how to do a language bundle. You're responsible. So there's a word a day that we collect, and at the end of the month, all those words you learned for the whole month at school, it's a bundle that you now get to take home to your parents, to get to take home to your grandparents. It's your language bundle. And so that's one of the ways that we're doing that. We have, in one school, we have a traditional Tuesday. So we want them to wear their ribbon shirts, their beadwork, their moccasins, just to show off who they are and not be ashamed of coming to school with that cultural pride. We have a Wolastoqey Wednesday, which is the same idea. We do, I make sacred spaces in the classrooms, and by sacred space, I mean for those of you who've ever fasted, I bring that fasting place into each classroom, and I teach the teachers in the language, because most of them are non-speakers, teach them how to, why is the yellow ribbon put in the east? Oh, it's to give gratitude for each day. Why is the blue and green in the south? Oh, it's to honor emotions. Why is the red in the west? To honor our ancestors, that 7th generation thinking. why is the black and white flags in the, or the ribbons in the north? It's to honor how to balance, I think what one of the elders was saying, how to balance Western and Indigenous ways of knowing, and to teach them how to, take anger and make it something positive afterwards. And then the purple is love. So these are in all our classrooms. And for those of you who've been in classrooms, they have this thing called regulations, a model of regulations. I'm indigenizing that to use our spirit guides on how to help those youth. How do I handle my anger? How can I handle, I don't understand what the teacher is saying. So there's so many different things that we're bringing into that. I have a sacred, what I call a spirit lodge in my office at the school. And what I mean by spirit, I'm teaching them how to come into a sweat lodge without the structure in the room, so that when I do take them on the land, once COVID restrictions are available, then they'll know how to enter into the spirit lodge in a good way already. I just did a midwinter ceremony. We have to honor Bear, as Bear is hibernating. And our territory, what we do is we did 4 sacred fires around our school to bless the school grounds. And you should have seen these 18-month-old babies offering the tobacco, the little girls offering water, the blueberries that we brought so that they can offer, eat for the bear, because when we do our fasting, we expect bear to eat for us when we're doing our fasting. So there's a whole lot of those things. But I'm thinking now I'm going to do a sacred fire every Friday, before they go home for the weekend, because these children bring to school many, many challenges. And so I want them to go home knowing they've left in ceremony. When they come back on Monday, there'll be a ceremony waiting for them as well. So that's really important. And one of the really big things that I think needs to come into our classrooms, and I'm sure all of you agree, is our names, our spirit naming. So I just recently started doing spirit naming for those students who are always called to the principal's office because they've either been disrupting the rest of the class, etc. So I am going to continue to give spirit names with the teachings that apply to it, so that if they might be, Simon might be having a hard time today being Simon. Well, you know what, Simon? I'm going to honor your spirit as the gentle bear. And so I'm going to reach out to Gentle Bear, not Simon today. So it's such a good way. And I have to admit, it was the first 7 students that I did just before March break. And there was so much emotion from those students when they were chosen to be the first ones at the school to be carrying these spirit names. So that's needs to come into every classroom, that idea, because yes, we give English names, but let's give our names in our language. And that's one way for me that I feel that we can save those languages. I work with babies I do a lot of community work, blessing the babies while they're still in the womb, so that by the time they're born, they've already heard their language, so that they come into the world already in that beautiful foundation that everybody's here has already mentioned that's missing. I take women to fast so that we can teach them how to help their daughters, to honor their moon ceremonies, how to pick those medicines. We do the cedar ceremonies as well, lots of storytelling. And linguistically, I designed an app because I noticed, as somebody mentioned, our children are looking at this little object. So I put my language on that little object. I'm designing 2 other ones right now to try to make sure, if you're going to be looking at little machine, then I want you to make sure you see your language on that little machine that you're loving and carrying and can't do without, etc. and stuff. So let me do it that way. But there's, and of course, we do, I thank uh, Valentina for the sweat lodges, sun dances, because we also do sun dance in our territory now, thanks to Keith Moon, who brought the ceremony to our territory when we were in need of ceremony. So these are all of the things that we get to share together, and continue to share, to make sure that we have we keep our culture alive. We keep our language alive. We make sure that we don't objectify it, because English teaches us to objectify. And I know Mike had mentioned that Thanksgiving address, why it's important to look around us and be grateful for everything that each day gives us. And so in this Thanksgiving address, it's hard to do it in English, because English will say the sky, the earth, the water. In our language, we're already related to all of that. And so our children forget that. And so when our language is missing from their worldview, then they begin to objectify and don't have the same relationship that all of us have, because we have the language already. And so that what needs to come back into our classrooms is that Thanksgiving address, that relationship, that remembering where we come from, 7 generation thinking, all of that. And I just, there's so much more to share, but we've already been here a long time, and I want to give somebody else a chance to share, but I just want to thank you for your listening. I want to thank you for this group mind that we're forming today. I want to thank you for the counsel that I've already received from listening to each and every one of you. My moccasins that I'm wearing are very filled with gratitude. So I thank in each and every one of you. And kula sikopa, kula zoltamotiba. I will end there and stuff by just giving you gratitude.